Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. I'm Randy Wright, and I'll be your captain on this solo flight special edition of our state-of-the-art radio program. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seatbelts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show while I go ahead and delve into the pre-flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before I may fully indulge you with your in-flight entertainment. Well, folks, yesterday was a somber occasion which marked the 16th anniversary of those dastardly and deadly terror attacks that were launched against the United States by the forces of tyranny, despotism, but above all oppression. These forces have been working tirelessly over the course of these years and decades to try and force us into accepting their dark and twisted machinations. And what they have tried to do is to pit American citizen against American citizen in the hopes that we would lose faith in our shared, fundamental, and inalienable God-given rights. Why would they do this? Because they are fully aware of the fact that the American experience, but the American spirit, is defined by our laws. Our unity comes from our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. You see, we have oftentimes reiterated on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program that our rights define us. They are the most important and critical things that we possess. This is why all of the agent provocateurs of tyranny and despotism always turn to that sort of divisiveness. It's because they can control in that manner, and they will stop at nothing to see it come to fruition in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. That is the very reason why we, in our capacity as United States citizens, must be ready, willing, and able to stand shoulder to shoulder in solidarity and unity, as we did in the immediate aftermath of the September 11th attacks. And when we look at that, we see that our true spirit of unity comes to us from our compassion. There is no compassion greater than that shown by the American people in the wakes of such calamitous affairs. When we look at what we did on September 12th of 2001, exactly 16 years from today, in the past, we see that we came together, that we cast our differences aside, and that we realized who we were both as a nation and people. That same spirit is alive and well in America today. We see it in the wake and aftermath of such cataclysmic devastation as Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. You see, when Americans are suffering, we truly do cast aside all of our differences and come together, standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity and unity. That is because we are, deep down, a closely knit national family. In other words, we are a community of popular sovereigns. Is it any wonder, then, that the reason that the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists have been working so tirelessly and so relentlessly and, dare I say, so meticulously towards implementing the tried and true, albeit threadbare, tactic and strategy of divide and conquer against the American people? It's because they realize that when we are divided, we lose sight of those attributes that are uniquely American. Those attributes that define who we are, both as a nation and people. And when they are able and capable of doing that, they can distract us from what truly matters. And we've certainly seen this come to the forefront throughout the summer of 2017. The rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media has done everything within their power to pit American citizen against American citizen throughout the course of 2017. We've seen it with the focus on the historical monuments of a particular geographical region of these United States of America. They do this on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. They do it to try and weaken us. I know that we have oft-times reiterated this on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, but we repeat it because their tune has not changed. They are the ones who want to see us divided in ways that will truly work against the internal cohesiveness of the land of the free and the home of the brave. And when they think that they have reached a point where they can see a light at the end of the tunnel, they manage to reach the conclusion that their victory is now within grasp. The only way that we can prevent that from coming into fruition is for us to be ready, willing, and able to come together, as we did in the face of Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, just as we did in the aftermath of the terror attacks of September 11th, 2001. That is the spirit that truly defines us. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, that's the reason why 2 years ago, as of yesterday, we here at our state-of-the-art radio program launched our premiere episode. We saw that even back in 2015, maybe arguably it's more appropriate to say, especially during the time of 2015, that America is a house divided. In fact, we had not been this divided in any other period or juncture in our nation's relatively brief yet illustrious history here on God's green earth, save for the year 1860, which was the year before this nation tore itself asunder and plunged itself into what is known in the common American vernacular as the American Civil War. That is truly something which we can ill afford to allow to come to fruition today. The compassion of the American people continues to be a truly inspirational factor and characteristic of our national heritage, character, spirit, but above all, identity. That is what the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists and their allies in the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media have been trying to accomplish throughout the course of 150 plus years, folks. They truly loathe and despise all that we hold near and dear in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. And this is why you see that in the face of such calamitous and catastrophic forces of nature as these hurricanes were and are, they have to change the narrative. Suddenly, the narrative of attacking a particular geographical region of these United States of America loses its importance. It loses the strength that it had, and they are left reeling with the narrative falling apart on them. And we have to be wary of it. Because when they do that, it means that they are going to shift their arguments. As we all know, they are never one to be complacent or non-responsive in a time of natural disaster. After all, the frothing of the mouth Fabian socialist leftist Kat Sunstein said that you should never allow a crisis to go to waste. In other words, they see this as an opportunity to politicize mass suffering on a biblical scale for their own political gain, for their own dark and twisted political machinations. That is truly wicked and despicable, but that is who they are, and it is who they have always been. Thus, it falls on our shoulders to show them and the entire world that that has nothing to do with who we are, either as a nation or people. Unfortunately, the media has already begun spinning the tales of fantastical hoaxes of man-made global warming as being the impetus and driving forces behind the cataclysmic as well as catastrophic hurricanes that have come on shore during this 2017 tropical cyclone season. We are currently at the very height of the hurricane season. But the fact of the matter is, when you actually look at the history, these hurricanes are occurring less frequently over the past 140 years than ever. So, if there is anything to their nonsensical claims that so-called climate change or man-made global warming or exploding penguins and global flattening caused this, they are full of it. And yes, folks, sorry to be crass, but not sorry. Because what they are doing is despicable. It is truly shameful. Not something that can be accepted, not something that should be tolerated, particularly in an open, honest, but above all free society like that of these United States of America. We have to be a free people. But the only way that we can be a free people is for us to be ready, willing, and able to be proactive in the maintenance and safeguarding of our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. Because if we aren't, these forces of evil, like the forces of bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, you name it, they will continue their dark and twisted machinations to attack us, to divide us, to weaken us, to have us totally brought against one another, and for what purpose? Other than to completely destroy the supreme law of the land, which, pursuant to Article 6, Clause 2, what is known in the common American vernacular as the Supremacy Clause, is none other than our shared United States Constitution. They loathe and despise that because they want to have complete and unfettered control over the reins of political power within the land of the free and the home of the brave, and they will stop at nothing, and I truly mean nothing, to accomplish this. Therefore, we must be cognizant and aware of the fact that they are truly trying to achieve such diabolical and, dare I say, twisted machinations in this country. I know that I have stated on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program that these dark and twisted forces are Machiavellian in nature, and if you recall, Niccolo Machiavelli was that Italian, particularly Florentine, author from the Renaissance period, who wrote his magnum opus, The Prince, and what that's so famous for just in the mainstream or mainstay popular conscious is the ends justify the means. It doesn't matter what ends you use as long as you achieve the goals that you had for yourself, the end goal. That is what they do. It's because they put their political notions and narrative, as well as machinations, above everything else. They loathe and despise everything that we cherish. It's like how they do go forth and attack historical monuments, all in the hopes of dividing. That's what Osama bin Laden wanted. That's what al-Baghdadi wanted. That's what all of these potentates and tyrants desire. They want to make us either live in sheer and unadulterated fear, or to be so divided that we look upon our fellow popular sovereigns with malice and hatred. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is not something which we can afford to allow to come to fruition in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. We simply cannot allow it to go forth unchecked, unfettered, but above all unchallenged. I say this not as a form of fear-mongering or as a way to spread the flames of derision, division, and divisiveness. Rather, I want us to tap into the kind of spirit that we have seen pour forth from the most compassionate people on the face of God's green earth, we, the people of these United States of America. That is what must define us. Just as it did on 9/12/01, so too must it on 9/12/17. We cannot allow the dark and twisted political narratives of these barbarians. And yes, folks, you can truly define what they are doing as barbarism. When they attack these people, when they attack the spirit that is the true spirit of America, because they are agent provocateurs of evil. And we can't allow that. We cannot allow ourselves to continue down a path of sheer, unadulterated destruction. It doesn't speak well to us as a people, and it hurts us as both a nation and people. This whole narrative on climate change. I've already seen numerous article after successive numerous article trying to say that Florida should never have existed in the first place, and that Texas, wanting as little regulation as is humanly possible, were simply asking for it. That they deserved it. That this is proof positive that climate change is real, and because their elected leaders and local community officials don't support this, and let's face it, it is rabid and extreme view or radical view that somehow we are creating these catastrophes and cataclysms. It's as though they truly believe that we can control the weather. We've seen it on the various annals of social media. We've seen it in the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media. We've also seen it within our institutions of higher learning or academia, the ivory tower, so to speak, from coast to coast and border to border. They are all trying to teach this nonsense. It's all part of cultural Marxism. All of that which we have explained on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer. But the reason I focus on this is in the face of true unity within the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave, they are the ones who are attempting once again to point the finger of blame. They are the ones that are attempting to once again pit American citizen against American citizen, and it is high past time that this come to a swift and immediate end. They cannot, and they most certainly shall not, be allowed to get away with this as long as there is breath in my lungs. Say this because I truly believe that the actual spirit of the American people is on full display, and that it is far more powerful than the lies that they are attempting to peddle. Think back to Aristotle. In his Art of Rhetoric, said it is far easier for the truth to shine through because people are hardwired to accept the truth. Potentates and liars struggle with their message because their message doesn't coincide with reality. But as the great visionary Zygmunt Dobbs warned us in his magnum opus of Keynes at Harvard back in the 1950s and 60s, frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists are going to do everything within their power to ensure that reality is blurred, that we don't know the truth. They will overburden us with things such as Cloward and Piven in order to overwhelm everything so that we don't know what reality is, so that we come crawling to the government on bended knee, asking for them to solve either a problem they created in the first place or a problem which never existed to begin with. That's truly diabolical, ladies and gentlemen, when you stop and think about it with a modicum of objectivity and under the totality of the circumstances. But that is clearly what they've been doing. For generation after successive generation, the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists have dedicated themselves to this sort of nonsense and drivel. And why? Because it leads them to be able to secure more power and control. But when they wield the reins of political power in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours, who is it that suffers truly? It is the American people, the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in these United States of America. That's what it comes down to, each and every time. They will not back away from their dark and twisted machinations. But we see that no matter what they try, the true spirit of these United States of America always manages to shine through, always manages to make its way to the surface, thereby completely and totally annihilating and obliterating this false narrative that they have been pushing for well over a century and a half now, folks. And you see, it's because truth and compassion always has a way of being more powerful, more meaningful to the people and to the way this nation operates. We cannot let these agent provocateurs of tyranny and despotism, but above all oppression managed to take root in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. It is our duty, obligation, and responsibility to ensure that we, in our capacity as United States citizens, are able to freely exercise our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights without fear of governmental repercussions and reprisals. You see, when you look at the damn near poetic language, no, it is poetic. The language within the four corners of the preamble to our shared United States Constitution, you see that one of the things it says that we must do is to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. In other words, for the up-and-coming generations, and indeed those generations which have yet to be born. That is our duty, and it is our duty alone. It's not something that we can disregard. And in the face of these cataclysms and catastrophes, we show that we do still have that hardwired into our collective psyche as a nation and people. But once things start to calm down, and we find ourselves on the long, difficult, and arduous journey to recovering and rebuilding from these things, a sense of complacency begins to enter the hearts, souls, and minds of the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty. We begin to lose sight of the goals that matter. They begin to run us ragged. They begin to force us down a path which we can ill afford to travel. And, ladies and gentlemen, that is all by design. It is how they can manipulate and control us. Well, it is high past time that we come together, standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity and unity, and say enough is enough. That we will not allow these dark and maniacal forces to push us down a nefarious path which will ultimately lead to our destruction, both as a nation and people. You see, we have the power to stand up to them. We have the ability to ensure that those characteristics which are our best characteristics shine through each and every day. But it does require that we be proactive and vigilant, and that we think and act for ourselves. We cannot be dictated to by an overzealous and draconian, out-of-control leviathan of an administrative state which is ultimately unaccountable to the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, we the people. We are the masters of our own destiny, and it must stay that way. Folks, I'm sure you recalled, in the immediate wake and aftermath of 9/11, 16 years ago, those bumper stickers, "These colors shall not fade," or "will not fade." That is what we have got to get back to. We can't just keep going down the divisive path of identity politics or of cultural Marxism, because those things cannot and shall not speak for who we are. We didn't give these frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists the ability to define us in such a negative and deleterious fashion. They do not have the right to do that, nor were they given the authority or power to do so. However, The only way that we're going to stop them is to be proactive in the maintenance and safeguarding of our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. We simply have no alternate recourse in the matter, folks. And, of course, we cannot allow them to belittle the true shining of the American spirit that we saw come to the epicenter and forefront in the immediate wake and aftermath of Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. You know, when these people sit there and say that we are in a bad place, that global warming has created this monstrosity, they ignore the fact that the death tolls thus far for such cataclysmic and catastrophic hurricanes are remarkably low. It's the same with the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists at every given juncture in time. They always act as though we cannot learn from the cataclysms and disasters of the past. Why? Because they realize they have to attempt to rewrite history in order for their dark and twisted machinations to be accepted by the general public. Because, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, their dark and twisted as well as nefarious machinations are anything but sane and rational. They are theft by any other name. They are criminal by any other name. And they are intolerable and despicable. Why do they do this? Again, it comes down to power, manipulation, corruption, but above all, control. We have to ensure that they do not have the opportunity to redefine us. Because, let's face it, folks, what they are trying to do at this juncture in time is to destroy us. They literally are trying to destroy us. Again, enough is enough. We did not give them the power to do this to us, or to dictate how we should react to these things. It's as though they cannot, and it's because they will not. They refuse to divorce themselves from their dark and twisted political machinations. That is something that has certainly come to the forefront more so in this fast-paced modern society in which we live today than previously. They want to try and control everything within our lives, to micromanage the facets of our daily lives. And again, it's because they are, for lack of a better term, control freaks. They want to control everything. They want to be relentless when it comes to being able to tell us how we can live our lives, what we can do with our lives, and that we are always at fault. They truly are the blame America first crowd, and I, for one, am sick and tired of it. Just as I am sure that you, our cherished listening passengers and audience members, are sick and tired of it as well. Again, it is sheer and unadulterated opportunism on their part when these things happen. They have no connection to us, nor do they feel any empathy for us. Think of the way that they attempted to ridicule the people who were directly in harm's way. And now they're saying that these cataclysmic catastrophes were brought upon us because we chose to live in an area where we stole the land. I've seen that article too. This is nonsense. It is sheer and unadulterated nonsense that has no place in an open and honest, but above all free society like that of these United States of America. And yet they continue to spout this drivel, to embrace this nonsense as if it is indisputable scientific fact. And that's the other thing. I've seen memes on various channels of social media where they said, this is about denying science. That's what's happening. Global warming is accepted. If you don't accept it, then you're like a Holocaust denier. In fact, the dark and twisted game of semantics that we have been warning about now for exactly 2 years is what they're engaged in there. They are attempting, through their usage of a lexicon, to paint us as the same and no different than Holocaust deniers. Again, who is it in the wake of these catastrophes that is engaging in the tried and true, albeit threadbare, tactic and strategy of divide and conquer? It is the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftist, as it has always been. Again, that's not something that's about to change. They believe that these dark and twisted machinations, which they engage in on a daily basis, work. And by and large, they do. If we are not paying attention to these dark and twisted machinations that they keep turning to each and every time. But if we open our minds to it, and we foster a fluent and working knowledge and understanding of our shared United States Constitution, and thereby our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights, we have the power to see through all of this nonsense that they are attempting to foist and cram down our throats completely and totally against our will. But it requires that we pay attention to this. It requires that we are ready, willing, and able to stand shoulder to shoulder in solidarity and unity, and not just during the aftermath of these cataclysmic catastrophes. It is so easy to allow ourselves to slip back into the status quo and to lose sight of these important attributes and aspects, but we can ill afford to do so, particularly at this given juncture in time. But what it all comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is that through the twin cancerous doctrines of political correctness and moral relativism, they have managed to destroy any and all semblance of a sense of shame within the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. And make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, this is all by design. It is all part of their dark and twisted machinations to push us in a direction which we simply should not and cannot afford to go down. They are the agent provocateurs of division, malice, and hatred. They are the ones, these frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists, the historical revisionists, the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media, who do all of this. They engage in spouting off so much subterfuge that it is nigh impossible for us to cut through all of the malarkey. And again, It goes right back to what that great visionary Zygmunt Dobbs warned us about some 60 plus years ago. Why is it that they still manage to maintain a platform for their dark and vicious machinations? Complacency. Complacency, like entropy, is the enemy of existence. It is a stage of dilapidation and decay, as well as degradation, that threatens the very life of the body politique of these United States of America. And, ladies and gentlemen, there is simply no way around this open and obvious fact. What we must do is ensure that we point out the true nature of our beloved, constitutionally endowed, federalist representative republic. And the way that we do that is, as always, by fostering a fluent and working knowledge and understanding of our shared United States Constitution, and thereby our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. That is the strength. That is the message that we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, have been purveying and conveying to you, our cherished listening passengers and audience members, for exactly 2 years now. And for those of you who have been loyal listeners throughout the course of these 2 years, just as we did 2 years ago, I am going to do again today. I am going to recommit to you that we, in the constitutional compositionist movement, will never, and I truly mean never, turn our backs on or abandon the supreme law of the land, as well as the natural law tenets that underpin both it and our beloved republic. We won't abandon it because it has a truly well-established track record of success. It has guided us for well over 237 plus years now. Folks, stop and think about the magnitude of that. We, in these United States of America, have the longest-standing, uninterrupted constitutional document in the entire course of human events. That is staggering. And yes, throughout the course of our relatively brief yet illustrious history here on God's green earth, we have faced numerous challenges to that. But each and every time, we, in our capacity as United States citizens, have always managed to overcome the hurdles, obstacles, and adversities that were and are erected in our path. But to ensure that this continues, and that we do not lose sight of who we are, both as a nation and people, we must, absolutely must, reject this notion of viewing the government as an end-all, be-all solution to the cornucopia and plethora of problems that we face. When you see that the left always turns to big government as some sort of overarching and benevolent benefactor to fix and resolve any and every problem that we encounter, you have to realize that is not in your best interest. Now, some are talking about how the price gouging laws in the wake of natural disasters and catastrophes are an example of big government, and that we're hypocrites in these states where we have them, such as the way Texas did and Florida did. But look, in a state of emergency, which is a constitutionally allowed attribute of federalism. It's designed for the general police power of the governments of the several states to act as they need to and to protect the health, safety, well-being, and yes, even the morality of their people and citizens. It's not Keynesian economics. Where Keynesian economics comes into this is where you have these dolts come forth and say that hurricanes are just absolutely wonderful for business. Nothing, and I truly mean nothing, could be further from the truth. Because it disrupts production. It disrupts the lives of the individuals who engage in the free market. Yet, it has to be in a stage of true, unadulterated, unmitigated disaster or emergency. Otherwise, it is not turned to. But the Keynesians, they always come forth and see these cataclysmic catastrophes and natural disasters as a way to increase the scope, breadth, power, but above all, control of the central government. That's what they always do. And they do it because it's really not about the market. It's about seizing the capital which exists within the market. That's what they do. It's what they have always done, and that certainly isn't about to change today. This is why you have people like Vermont Senator Nerdface Boing Me Sanders out there in the wake of both Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, claiming in his shrill yet perpetually intoxicated sounding voice, "We have to deal with climate change because it does go out and create this nonsense. I'm the flying saucer, Nerdface Boing Me Sanders." Again, that is political opportunism at its very worst. It is, again, something that we should not accept, something that we should not tolerate, something that should be destroyed and should be chastised at every available and given opportunity. Shame on that moron. But shame on these various newspapers and magazines and media sources and outlets that are out there saying that the policies of these states brought these cataclysmic as well as catastrophic storms or acts of God upon the good and decent people of those respective states. Who in the hell are you to spin that narrative? Who gave you the authority to stand there all high and mighty on your throne of glass? You can sure as hell bet that if they were directly in the path of this, they would not be singing that same disharmonious and discordinal tune. They'd be trying to beg to be helped or assisted in these difficult times. They would be begging to be saved. Because when you stop and think about it, under the totality of the circumstances and with a modicum of objectivity, these very people are the ones who would not be able to survive in those cases. These are the people who always follow the mantra of do as I say and not as I do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the complete epitome of hypocrisy. In other words, these people truly are hip with hypocrisy. They are agent provocateurs of a despicable type of nonsense. One that goes against us, one that pits us against one another, one that is ultimately and purposefully intended to cause the societal fabric of this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours to unravel from within. Their goal is destruction. And they hope to achieve through that ultimate and cataclysmic destruction the ability to create their utopian socialist paradise. But problem with utopia, when you go back to the original Greek roots of it, it means no place. When Thomas Aquinas penned that book during the reign of Henry VII and VIII, he was writing it as a sort of example of a perfect society, knowing that no place in this earthly and mortal realm in which we live could ever be achieved. Wow. Socialists and the Fabians, they are all driven by this common strain of naivete, which blinds them to the truth of human nature. The truth is, we have true compassion. We have empathy for our fellow countrymen and women as they suffer through things like that. Just as we did in 9/11, we do today. Look at the heroics of the first responders, risking life and limb to ensure that their fellow countrymen and women are safe to the best of their ability. Look at the way that Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Florida Governor Rick Scott have really worked on a truly unified approach, for lack of a better term, to resolving these things. They have centralized private charity, not in a government way, but providing a platform for it to all be consolidated, thereby expediting and increasing the brevity of the time that people will be forced to linger in suffering. They have proven beyond a shadow of the doubt that we can and do learn from these cataclysmic natural disasters of the past. And they are natural disasters, not man-made disasters. There's not some mad scientist cackling there in some dark, smoke-filled room with a time and weather control device. That's such nonsense. Just look at how childish that sounds, how idiotic and moronic that appears, because that is most certainly what it is. Their machinations and their designs and what they keep foisting upon us is truly ludicrous and ridiculous when you examine everything, but particularly in an objective fashion. Again, all of this is going to require that we come together as a nation and people, putting aside our differences and recalling that there truly is within these United States of America a greater good. That we can all recall that the sum or the whole of America is far greater than the mere sum of its parts. But in order to accomplish this, it means that we have to recognize the clear and present danger that is presented to our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. And it is for that reason that my first officer, Jeremy Grapenton, and I as well as our first Air Marshal, Mr. Nelson Ward, have so frequently reiterated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, that without our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights, we are truly left with nothing. We don't say that for the purposes of hearing our own voice or to bloviate. We say that so that we can empower you, our cherished listening passengers and audience members, to take whatever steps are necessary to secure your rights. Because when you gaze upon the foundational documents of these United States of America, you see that our founding fathers always intended for us to be proactive. That we must be stalwart in the face of these dark and deceptive forces of tyranny and despotism. And mark my words, folks, these frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists, the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media, as well as the historical revisionists that infest the ivory towers of academia from coast to coast and border to border, will not relent. They are the eternal watchmen for evil and wickedness. Because let's face it, to attempt to exploit and capitalize from the suffering of our fellow countrymen and women is a truly disgusting thing. To push a hyper-politicized narrative in the face of such human suffering reaches a whole new low. It goes to the depths of depravity, of which is wholly unacceptable and intolerable, and will never be accepted or tolerated in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave, at least so long as I have breath in my lungs. Folks, though it has been 16 years, we must be a community of popular sovereigns. We must come together, not just in the wake of these catastrophes, whether it be a man-made terrorist attack or the wrath of God, or Mother Nature, if you will. We heal ourselves through our own dedication and actions. It is through our own fruition that we place this nation squarely and soundly back onto the path of or to prosperity. Again, it takes a lot of effort, but in the wake and aftermath of both Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, we see that one strain of the American character that this great and sagacious founding father, Sam Adams, said we had to have in order to be a strong, vibrant, and, dare I say, robust republic, is that the people must be virtuous. I have seen true virtue in the response to these cataclysmic as well as catastrophic natural disasters. That is the true spirit of the American people. That is truly what has driven and defined us for generation after successive generation, and God willing will define us always. We have the power and capacity to see that adopted as our common virtue. It is our duty and obligation to see that come into fruition. And I truly believe that we can and will, because we must and we always do. We do not allow the charlatans and the hucksters and the carnival barkers to control our destiny. We control destiny. Now, with that said, it is time for me to begin our descent. I'm going to go ahead and send the flight attendant back with one last round of alcohol. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe that alcohol is caused by global warming. But if she attempts to tell you that, go ahead and just push her out of the plane. As always, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Wright Flyer. Should you have any questions, comments, or even concerns, or even topic suggestions, please feel free to leave them either here on our YouTube page, or on our Facebook page, or even on our Google Plus page. And on top of that, I invite you to follow us over there on Twitter with the Twitter handle @RadioAviationEX. One more time, folks, that's @RadioAviationEX, and there you will find the departure board which lists my personal Twitter account as well as the personal Twitter account of my first officer, Jeremy Grapington. You will also find the link to the Blogspot account, which is chock full of useful information, and you will also find, as you will, in the description section of today's Solo Flight Special Edition of our state-of-the-art radio program, the link to our Cafe Press account. Ladies and gentlemen, at the Cafe Press account, you can find all sorts of novelty items, trinkets, and goodies, whether it be hats, shirts, shoes, apparels, dog apparel, mugs, thermoses, laptop sleeves and protectors, smartphone sleeves and protectors, also drinking glasses, shot glasses, jewelry, you name it. It's all there at reasonable prices, either with our original Radio Aviation Excellence logo, or our First Class Passenger logo, or the two Uplifting America logos, because America, we can and will uplift our nation together. Once again, folks, I'm Randy Wright, and I want to thank you for choosing to fly with us, and I hope to see you again next time. Please do take care.